Who knew the Giants drafted 2 starting corners in the same year? What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 squad? Welcome back into another video. I keep saying this every practice, but this seems like the most interesting practice of them all. And of course, that's going to change because tomorrow is the real deal, the real deal, when the Giants start practicing with full pads on. So we're going to hear a lot of offensive linemen and defensive lineman news, more so than now, because these past 5 practices, all we're pretty much talking about is the defensive backs and wide receivers. No running backs, no like linebackers, barely any linebackers, and no trench players at all. So before we start this video, guys, make sure you guys have been killing it so far on the channel, and you guys have clearly loved the covering of these practices. So if you want to see more of this, you want to see more content just like this and even better, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and also like the video. Helps out a lot. Drop a comment as well, and let's get started. Alright, so we have some changes here. For the first time, we're actually seeing consecutive starters play on the first team, that being JMS and then Pinnock at safety, who had that crazy interception at the end of practice. You could see why he stood there at the first team with the first team, and also Cordell Flott. So this is the first time this has happened so far. I don't know if that's an indicator of something, or maybe they want to see more of these players, but JMS, Cordell Flott, who was playing in the slot, and also Jason Pinnock were in at first team. Now, it's interesting because Flott, I heard, struggled yesterday and still got a chance again to play in the slot. So with him in the slot, that shifts Darnay Holmes out of there. Now, the biggest thing that we have to talk about, and I want to get right into this, is that Trey Hawkins, the rookie 6th round pick this year out of Old Dominion, found a way onto the first team. This might be the fastest we've ever seen someone like a 6th round pick just move up in the ranks like this. Corey Ballantyne was one that comes to mind that I mentioned last video, but I think it took him until the preseason to start getting some first team reps because they liked what they saw in those preseason games. But Trey Hawkins, in the 5th day of training camp, found a way with the first team. Now, it was only for about 6 plays or so. That, matter of fact, I'm lying about that. He played the full, most of it with the first team, but it was 6 plays where we saw Deonte Banks at boundary 1, cornerback 1, and then Trey Hawkins at cornerback 2, and Adoree Jackson at cornerback 3 in the slot. So that is very interesting. A lot of people may say that's the ideal sort of what you would kind of want, because Adoree, even coming out of college at a USC, was mostly projected to be a slot corner, found his way of being an outside corner at Tennessee, and then continued to be that with New York. But it was for just 6 plays. But in those 6 plays, Adoree Jackson had a pass breakup, and Adoree Jackson did not practice for the rest of the training camp period, because this was sort of like a vet day for a lot of the veterans. A lot of these guys kind of did individual drills, did a little bit of workouts, or maybe even played on 11-on-11s for a series or 2, and kind of was able to sit out. And I assume this is just load management that Brian Daboll is implementing, which is okay with me. Guys like Darren Waller, Sterling Shepard, who's coming off an injury, Darren Waller, who's been dominating, Adoree Jackson, and Jihad Ward. Waller's been killing it. He really doesn't need to be killing it every single practice. It's okay for him to have a rest day. There's not much to really evaluate in him, but to get chemistry with Daniel Jones. But before Waller exited, he participated in individual drills, and he just demolished a practice pad.
I'm the juggernaut, bitch!
Now, we'll see what happens with Adoree Jackson playing in the slot this season. You may see some of that now that we have some decent depth at cornerback, something that we didn't have last year. Now, we've seen veterans, especially on the Giants, veteran cornerbacks shift into the slot. We've seen DRC, who is played outside the majority of his career, and I believe there was an instance where he played the slot in Philadelphia, but he didn't like that. But he wound up playing the slot and playing it well in 2016 when the Giants had Janoris Jenkins and Eli Apple as well. Now, you may be wondering, if Flott is in the slot, Adoree played in the slot, where's Darnay Holmes? Interesting news from Dan Duggan. Darnay Holmes found his way all the way down to the 3rd team. I don't know if that's an indicator or something. I don't know if they're trying to tell us something, but Darnay Holmes wound up practicing with the 3rd team today. If you're a clear-cut starter, you probably, or even a guy competing for the 1st team, I don't imagine you playing 3rd team in any sort of fashion, especially if you're competing with Cordell Flott. But who was playing 2nd team was safety / cornerback, defensive back, Bobby McCain, who went down from 2nd team safety to 2nd team slot corner. So that's interesting to know. Speaking of cornerbacks, while we're on the subject, Deonte Banks, who's been I guess, very popular subject as of late because he has been struggling in training camp for a good reason to talk about. You know, it's okay to be worried about these things. I'm not worried too much. I'm waiting how things play out, but it seems like he's getting right back into it. He's getting right back in business. He had a couple of pass breakups today, including one huge one, probably the best play for him in training camp so far against Darius Slayton. You already know the Giants had to post that right away. I saw that highlight before practice even finished. They put that post up real quick to make sure the fans relax and kind of prove that Deonte Banks is not trash. Great job to the Giants media of doing that, doing some fan control there. Daniel Jones continues to have himself a day, this time without Darren Waller. A lot of people, even on Twitter, especially on Twitter, were saying that Daniel Jones is only successful in training camp because of Darren Waller. He's the one padding the stats, so to speak. And that is clearly not the case, as Darren Waller didn't even participate in 11-on-11 drills. The guys who were there in replacement was second-year man Daniel Bellinger, and also we saw a lot of Lawrence Cager as well at 1st team tight end. Daniel Jones has been throwing absolute dimes, just perfect passes. You see them against for Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt. I mean, he's throwing absolute dimes. They're perfect spirals. They have perfect trajectory to them. I mean, Daniel Jones is on a whole nother level this training camp. He's absolutely lighting it up, and he finished 15-19 for 3 touchdowns. Those 3 touchdowns went to Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, and Daniel Bellinger. Although Jalen Hyatt didn't have a touchdown with the 1st team, he did have a deep pass on an out route against Xavier McKinney in tight coverage and still came up with the catch. It was a great throw and an even better catch by Jalen Hyatt, who was able to use his toes to stay in bounds and complete the reception. He also had time with the 2nd team as well and did have a touchdown with the 2nd team from Tyrod Taylor, who seemed to have a really good connection with each other, because this is like the 3rd, maybe 2nd or 3rd touchdown already that Tyrod Taylor has thrown Jalen Hyatt from deep. In other small news, Jamison Crowder is back and he's competing. I believe he's working with the 2nd team right now, and he had an insane one-handed grab that seems to be a reoccurring theme here in Giants training camp. Nick McLeod had himself a highlight-worthy interception, and he was working with the 2nd team. I like Nick McLeod, man. He did a good job in replacement wherever they needed him. He played a lot of slot. He played outside corner. I believe he played a little bit of safety, if I'm not mistaken, last year. And he's just everywhere. He's a big-bodied defensive back, and you could pretty much put him anywhere. I like Nick McLeod. I think he's a guy you have to keep on this roster as good defensive back depth. Also, Micah McFadden, every time he gets the start, every time he works with the 1st team, he always makes a play. I mean, I just got to say, every time Micah McFadden plays with the 1st team, he makes highlights. He gets some notes written about him. I don't hear anything about Darian Beavers absolutely ever. He's probably trying to catch up to the wide receivers blowing right past him. I don't know. But all that being said, listen, the wide receivers, all of them look great. Darius Slayton has been killing it. Paris Campbell has been killing it. Jalen Hyatt been killing it. Isaiah Hodgins, we haven't heard too much of him, but that's not really his game. He's not really a deep, highlight-worthy type of guy. He's a possession receiver on the outside. He has had a couple of touchdowns, none of which to really note too much that they've noted. So obviously I can't note it, but I heard that he has been doing well in training camp up to this point from people that are at the practices. So that being said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like I said, this was a very interesting training camp, especially with the huge adjustment on defense with Trey Hawkins. But tomorrow is going to be even better. It's going to be a later practice, so we're going to get another late upload. But tomorrow's going to be even better. It's going to be their first fully padded practice. Very excited about that one. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo!